We'll let AI fix it.
Yeah, we'll roll with it. Let the AI do its $50 a month job.
$50 a month for AI?
It does a bunch of other stuff for me as well.
Does it make you look pretty?
No, that's natural.
You can't pay for that kind of enhancement.
It's my gift to the world. Hello, everyone. Oh, my gracious. It's time for ShiftLess, and I feel good. How about you, Bradford?
Man, feel like a virgin. Podcasting for the very first time. I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy you're here. I am immensely happy to see you, my friend. It's been a while.
It has been a while. This weather and all the illness that has been distributed throughout our people.
See, okay, so evidently at the moment, that's a North Texas thing.
Is it really?
Because in all my travels, no one else had any idea what I was talking about.
Wow, maybe it's just a pocket.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? You know, but yeah, I mean, it's thick here. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I mean, Adam had strep. Caleb's had COVID. I was struck with the sickness in typical fashion. Didn't go to the doctor. Finally feel my heart rate's lined back out. Feel better. Just had this lingering cough that stuck around for a while. But luckily my family's been fine. So I don't know.
That's good.
I don't know.
That's good. How's the new puppy?
Oh my gosh. Well, one of the sweetest puppies I've ever had in my life. He's just an absolute sweetheart. He's getting along fine. Happy to have him.
Well, excellent. I'm starting to feel moisture.
And he's such a cuddle bug.
So, you know, one of the generic adages out there when you're in the influencer realm that we are, you know, with our world famous podcast. You know, is never read the comments.
Okay.
Never read the comments, and I stumbled across our Apple page for iTunes or whatever. And you know me, I'm not an Apple. I don't know how that shit works, but there was a comment from somebody on there that I think almost everybody gave us 5 stars except for this one person that gave us 3.
Okay.
And they were very disconcerted about us talking about the weather and dogs on the front end and not informing them where we're located or what our credentials are or blah blah. You know, they got 15 minutes into it before they said anything about bicycles. It's like, you know what? That's kind of the nature of the show.
It's part of what makes our character. We are very diverse. We care about dogs.
It is getting wetter.
Weather, food, and bicycles.
Hells yeah, and maybe even a movie here and there if it comes up.
Yeah,
and of course Lincoln Park. You know,
that makes one of us.
What keeps beeping, man?
Oh, I don't. Caleb's not here to help me set up my stuff.
Oh, okay.
Here, I got it on now. Do not disturb. How about that?
I don't know.
That'll make it quiet.
You could always just mute, but
oh yeah, that's true.
Anyway, so bicycles.
Bicycles.
Do you have bicycle topics to talk about?
Well, I just got back from my second e-bike trip.
Oh.
We went to Arkansas, stayed at the Highway 27 fishing village, and did all the normal rides around there.
Okay.
Did Iron Mountain on Thursday. Big fun. We did Mount Nebo on Friday. That was probably the most impactful one for me. Probably, like, if there was ever a trail that would make someone embrace an e-bike, Mount Nebo's up there.
Walk me through it. I haven't ridden Mount Nebo, I don't believe, so.
So I don't know the trail system incredibly well, and we did not ride the entirety of it. It's got multiple lines and there's multiple trailheads. However, where we parked is at the very bottom. So when you come out of the parking lot, I want to say it's a 1.75 miles climb.
Okay.
And it's single track and nothing super technical until you get up to the hub and then climb again. But there is a lot of technical stuff, and there is a lot of skinny stuff. A lot of stuff that, and when I say skinny, I don't mean man-made skinnies, elevated like wooden structures, ladders, and stuff like that.
You mean tight?
I mean narrow single track that's armored that has a lot of penalty for failure on one side.
Okay.
Bench cut, but armored bench cut. And then there's a lot of just like rock garden climbs that are still a little bit less exposure, but still super technical. And I don't know, if you're highly fatigued, you're gonna not do so well. And the e-bike just makes it so much easier.
Understood. Now, when you talk about the armored single track that's tight, I mean, is the armoring itself just a fairly even tread, or is that a technical armoring to some extent?
I think they attempted to make it as even as possible. Yeah.
But did they succeed?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
it's a beautiful trail.
Just trying to paint pictures for those of us that aren't familiar with it.
It's reminiscent of Devil's Den, if you've been to Devil's Den. But there is a lot more exposure, if you will. There's a lot of stuff where if you fall to the left or the right, depending on which way you're turned, you could you could slide, 30, 40, 50 feet.
Tumble.
Yeah. And the problem is it's all scattered with rocks.
Right.
I mean, the whole thing is armored off of large stones that were, I suppose, were collected right when they were building the trail, because it's just rock everywhere. But also a freaking cool trail. Like there's a little cove that you ride through that water's just falling. You're like riding underneath the waterfall. And I mean, it's gorgeous.
So is this national forest? Is this a state park? What is the...
Shit.
Okay, never mind.
Never
mind. I'm not going to put you to work.
Okay.
What bike were you on this trip?
The same one before, the Cannondale Moterra, from our friends down at Velo Republic. Other than having a like 2000s highlighter yellow paint scheme, freaking dope bike. It's a monster of a bike. It's got so much power. Mount Nebo State Park.
Okay. And what town-wise, what's that?
Russellville, I think.
Okay.
Or Dardanelle. I don't know where that is.
I don't know what a Dardanelle is.
Yeah.
But okay. All right.
It's a newer trail. I think it was built less than 10 years ago.
Okay.
It says it has 32.6 miles of hiking and mountain biking trails. We rode approximately 16 miles.
Okay.
And then on Saturday, we rode from Highway 27 Fishing Village towards the lake on the Womble. And it was a matter of managing your battery. So everybody was kind of on their own. Mm-hmm. We grouped, obviously, but it was ride to about 50% or whatever you're comfortable with, and then turn around and come back.
Okay.
So, I went on that mountain biking trip up in Mina. We were all on e-bikes, and I don't remember having this exact experience, but after riding 3 days in a row on what I would consider pretty technical trail. I mean, even Iron Mountain, as flowy as it is, still is fairly technical. And the Womble, as flowy as it is, the state of Womble right now made it far more technical and nerve-wracking than it's ever been before.
Interesting.
Very little maintenance on the Womble, it appears. And the bench cut that has always been so beautiful has seemingly receded. It's gone from what used to be probably 24 inches to like 18 inches. And then, not to mention, nobody's been riding it, so it's covered with leaves. So
Okay.
it's just spooky at speed.
Okay.
But after the conclusion of the trip and the ride home, my entire body was sore, which I can only attribute to Englishing that bike around.
Yeah,
And
manhandling that heavy bike.
Yeah, because it's every bit of 50 pounds.
Yep.
And so even when you're climbing and the motor's helping you, you're still having to put that bike where you want
You
it
still
to
have
go.
to pinball wizard that bike.
And it's a lot. I've given so many people so much grief, but I've come to the conclusion that after, granted, this is only my second trip where I've had multiple exposures. It's just a totally different game. You're still riding a bike, but there's a whole nother task list going on in your head.
I understand completely.
You know?
I think that was the first feedback I gave you after a week on the e-bike. It's like,
it's hard to comprehend if you haven't experienced it.
It's riding a bike is fun. Riding an e-bike is fun. They are different experiences, and trying to equate the two is pointless because they're different experiences.
Yeah, and I think at this point with my limited e-bike exposure, I feel like e-bikes have their place. In my opinion, or for my taste. I don't know. I wouldn't want to go ride an e-bike at Oak Cliff Nature Preserve or LB Houston or, even RCP. Much like you wouldn't take a mountain bike full suspension on a road ride, it would be out of place to me. But, different people, it seems to me, because I've been trying to be a little bit more observant of the habits of people that have adopted e-bikes, because we're getting longer into the experiment, if you will.
We're past the experiment, but go ahead.
But
I'm listening.
I was talking to one of the regulars at my bike shop that it seems like every time I'm there, he's there. And we chat about all kinds of stuff all the time. And I asked him the other day, I said, hey, how many e-bikes do you have now? And he said, 3. Well, I said,
That is atypical.
It is.
Is this a former traditional bike rider that was?
I'm getting there. It's unfolding.
Okay.
Yeah.
My bad.
And I said, so how many?
Proceed.
Yeah, I said, so how many analog bikes do you have? And he said, well, like 3.5. And I said, okay. I said, and when did you purchase your first e-bike? And he said, it was a little over 2 years ago. And I said, how often do you ride an Amish bike at this point? He said, hardly never. And I said, so is it harder to grab the e-bike? The regular bike? Do you feel like you're working much harder? Well, is your experience lessened? Like, what are the contributing factors? And now this is just an anecdotal story.
Sure.
But his take was, I feel like I'm working just as hard on my e-bike, but the metric that makes the most difference to me is my average speed. He said, for instance, I can go out and ride North Shore and I can average 10, a little over miles an hour, and I don't feel like I'm doing anything. Because I'm working hard, but it doesn't feel like I'm going as fast as I should be. And then he said, but I can grab my e-bike and I can run 15. And he goes, and then I feel like I'm doing it. I was like, okay. That's, your thought process, but I thought it was interesting.
Is this possibly one of those former motocross riders? By
No,
chance?
I don't even know that you know this guy.
I'm not meaning it that way. Just that framing of it sounds to me like somebody that's almost has.
That's interesting that you mentioned that. I don't know this guy's previous experience. I don't know if he's an ex-motocross guy, but we talked about that this weekend about, I've had the pleasure of riding behind multiple ex-motocross guys in my bicycling days, my mountain biking days. And I think that those guys are obviously the best candidate for e-bikes because they already have the processing speed. That's the beautiful thing about motocross guys is they have handling skills, but they can read the trail like the Matrix,
Yep.
And they anticipate everything, and their processing speed is so overclocked, and it's obviously a contributing factor to their ability to handle their bike, and then the other thing is they're used to throwing around a bike that's
a heavy bike,
250 pounds.
So those guys definitely. I guess all I'm getting at is for just framing the speed in that way.
Right.
Strikes me as he has previous experience with the speed to recognize that, if that makes any sense.
That's possible. That's possible. I'll ask him next time because I'm curious now that you mentioned that.
What my supposition is for, I think there's lots of variables as to who's going to be attracted to an e-bike more so than a traditional bike, and what might make that be preferred for somebody is, I think the other factor is people that ride with groups versus people that ride by themselves.
Yeah, and we all came to that. I mean, I think that's a universal conclusion. Like it like we've talked about before, if you're on a single speed and your whole group's on a geared bike, you're not going to have as much fun. And likewise, if you're on a analog bike and the rest of the group is on an e-bike, you're not going to have as much fun. Yeah, I need to put my computer inside. You were right. It's getting moist.
Is it getting moist?
Yeah, look at it.
You could always just put the top down.
I could, but then I'm closing all that moisture in there.
Okay. All right.
Mute my microphone real quick.
I just put that away. Oh. Hold on, I'm getting there. And I got gloves on. There we go. All right, you are muted, but you're still making noises everywhere. But yeah, since we didn't give the full weather outlook today, it's cool and drizzly at the moment, and but it actually feels good with proper layering on. But it's getting drizzlier by the second all of a sudden for whatever reason. I think we've hit dew point or something like that. Are you ready now?
I'm ready. I am ready.
You're hot.
I don't have my war dialer anymore, though, so we're just going to shoot from the hip. Yeah, it's the humidity. I guess.
Glug, 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 glug,
yeah.
glug, glug.
We have hit the dew point, so the moisture is just appearing. It's not falling. It's just here.
It's just here. It's 100% humidity is what it is.
Yeah. Hey guys, I'm here.
Yeah, I was looking forward to going through our viewer emails that we haven't done in a month, but
yeah. We
can put it off for now.
Oh no, I have them and I have responses.
Okay.
I got a kick out of almost every one of them. And I love that you sent them sequentially.
I think I sent them reverse sequentially, but
well, I mean, they showed up in my email like this, all in a line.
Oh, I follow what you're. So they're all together, is
yes.
what you mean?
Yes.
They're batched.
Yes. So,
the
first one is from Anonymous. although
Just go on.
I got a big chuckle out of this one.
I think he'll appreciate that.
And it just starts no cold
I
open or
assume
anything.
anonymous is a he, but is that sexist of me?
No, because it's it obviously has a what do you call it? An electronic signature that was hopefully unintended. But it just says, in my opinion, this mountain bike tire trend for gravel racing will go away by the end of the year. Dylan Johnson is wrong. Also, flats are faster. I didn't even have to do any legwork to figure out who this was. And then it's signed from Anonymous. Now, the only thing that made it harder to figure out who this was from is because there was no misspelled words.
He's got the AI doing the spell check for him now.
I have to disagree with him wholeheartedly on this, though. I think Dylan Johnson is further proving that narrower tires are not faster. In fact, he just put out a video, and
I was about to ask, have you seen the video?
Yeah, I watched the video. I did not digest the entirety of the video. There were far too many interruptions when I was attempting to watch it. But conclusively, the bigger tires are still better, faster, and have less drawbacks and more just positives all the way around. I think it's a trend that's going to continue. Obviously, there is a ceiling for all of that, right? I mean, 3.0s are not faster than 2.1s.
Right. Well, and that was for me. That was the most interesting part of Dylan's video, because if you go with the assumption that 38s are slower than 2.1s or 2.3s or whatever he uses. I think he uses 2.3s.
2.1s, I think.
Whatever it is. So it's fair to assume that 40s are still faster than 38s, and 45s are faster than 40s, and 47s are fast, and then 50s. No.
Yeah, it was
that was the interesting part about it, and Dylan does the Dylan thing and throws the science shit at it.
There was far too many graphs and charts and
stuff. No.
No, I mean
not enough.
I'm saying what I was saying earlier is that I had too many interruptions. It was way too in depth for me to take in the entirety of it. But I think one thing, unless he mentioned in the video, it bears witnessing, or whatever you say, it's worth mentioning. I think rim is a crucial part of that.
That was my takeaway. That was not a factor that was taken into equation that I saw or heard in that video. And I did text him right after I watched it, because I was impressed. I was happy to see another science video from him, as opposed to a race recap or whatever else. But I said, you need another wind tunnel session, because we got to find the sweet spot for those 50s and 45s, and I'm thinking pressures may play a difference where maybe they are the ideal in between, based on what he was saying. Because what he said, ultimately the 38s were faster on the road, basically.
Okay.
But anytime you got any sort of texture to the surface, so to speak,
like chip seal,
I'm gonna guess that 38s are still faster on the chip seal.
Okay.
But once you start getting deformation in the tire itself, the mountain bike tire, the advantages start taking off at that point.
But it's seemingly obvious that a 38 on a, let's just call it a 30 internal wheel is not going to work, and a 2.1 on a 30 internal wheel is the way to go.
And I follow your logic completely, but there's just we're getting into the realm of you can only test so many variables.
Yeah,
and ultimately is what it boils down to.
But I've yet to hear him address no, that's not true, because when we interviewed him in person and he had his bike there for him,
we did. Well, but that was the big thing to him, was as deep of a rim as he can possibly get away with.
Yeah.
As well, and
Yeah.
that's completely understandable.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what his bike for this year is going to be.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that, and see what direction that goes. What's going to be more interesting is to see how the rest of the field responds. That I'm really looking forward to the bikes of the racers this year at the different events and how that shakes out. And
As am I.
I'm hoping it's the Frankenbike year myself, but we'll see. We'll see.
I think we're not far from seeing people. When I say people, I mean maybe not big box companies, but more companies getting in the realm of where Salsa's been for a decade plus. Drop bar mountain bikes with 2.2 capabilities.
Maybe. Again, we're in that niche upon a niche upon a niche.
That's fair.
Thing. So here's where I have a little bit of. Don't get me wrong. I'm most definitely a salsa proponent and a salsa advocate. But I do feel they've kind of been lagging for a while. They really haven't thrown much new into. I mean, they've updated their models and stuff like that. And yes, they threw their e-bike models out there, but I mean, they were 5 years behind everybody on e-bikes at that point.
Yeah, one of the guys that was with us this weekend was on a Salsa. Man, I don't know what the model is, but it was a mountain bike.
Yeah, they're
e-bike.
mountain. Yeah, I can't remember which ones they are.
It's a weird frame design. I wasn't a huge fan of the aesthetics of it.
Understood.
Honestly.
Well, I mean, you could say that about salsa forever. A lot of the time. A lot of the time. A lot of their bikes look a little funky. Not all, but a lot. And
The older ones, I mean, they did some interesting stuff, but I think they're all pretty damn cool. I watched a great interview too. Did I send you that? So I'm trying to remember how I got turned on to this guy, and it may have been through the bikepacking.com channel. There's a guy named Paul Brody that's an old builder, and he's into.
No, maybe not.
He interviewed. The guy's name's for leaving my mind right now, but the originator
the
of salsa cycles.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe you did send that to me. I watched it.
It's a great interview.
I watched half of it.
Yeah,
they started going around in circles.
I know, but to me it was cool just to get a little insight into the brain that was salsa and how all that was.
Yes, that I agree with.
But what was even cooler about the whole video to me is just seeing the camaraderie between those two guys and understanding the level of mutual respect.
Sure.
And just kind of getting a little inside to how they developed in an industry that was so secretive at the time. Like they talked about, you'd go to a party and, it'd be in somebody's shop and they would have their jigs covered because they didn't want you to know how they were doing their stuff. And then once they met the right people, they were like, oh, let me show you that. This is how I make this cut, and all this. And it was just cool just seeing these two guys that had so much in common. And it was like being on a little conversation with two best friends, It was cool. I enjoyed it. Salsa.
So, well, and where I was going is, salsa has been lagging. They really haven't thrown out anything massively innovative in a while.
Yeah.
Where they used to be ahead of the curve for everything.
But see, I would argue that salsa being ahead of the curve. Everybody else is making knee-jerk reactions as far as, reacting to economy and movement of bikes and, all this stuff. And salsa's just kind of, let's slow down a little bit,
I think their business has fundamentally changed in the past.
Oh, I mean,
10 10
Yeah.
years. So,
Yeah.
I mean, they really haven't done anything since the Cutthroat. That was their last
They
innovation.
just released a brand new Fargo. I don't know if you saw that.
I understand that. It's not innovative. It's not. It's an iteration, yes.
Well, but they're leaning out the Fargo and bringing it more towards the Cutthroat, which makes me believe that they're going to refine the Cutthroat and make it a little bit more.
I thought they just came out with a new
racy.
Cutthroat too.
They came out with new colors. I don't know that they changed.
I thought
did
there
they
were-
change anything
I
on
thought
it?
there were new features, but I wasn't paying that close. I was under the impression there were new features, but I didn't dig down into it because it's not anything that's particularly on my wish list at the moment.
Well, I mean, obviously, I'm a Fargo fanboy, so I paid attention to that. But it also made me think, if they're doing this, then because what's happening, they eliminated the War Road because there was almost too much crossover. Mm-hmm. You had the War Road, Warbird.
There was too much
Cutthroat. Yeah, Cutthroat, Fargo. So if they're in my estimation, if they're bringing the Fargo closer to the Cutthroat, then I think the Cutthroat's going to go closer to where the Warbird is.
I don't think so.
Well,
I could be wrong.
I mean, they put a
What
Svelter fork on there.
what they need to do is a 2-inch tired Warbird. That's what they need to do.
Yeah.
And I mean the Cutthroat as the race bike packing bike is
It's kind of the industry standard.
that's its niche.
Yeah.
Niche.
As far as
It's its thing.
as far as a readily available, off the shelf, bike packable racing, quote unquote,
Right.
racing bike pack bike.
Right.
The Cutthroat is pretty much the industry standard. It's like I said when I started with readily available.
Understood. Understood.
But back to the Fargo for just a second, because you're missing a couple of things here. They changed to flat mount brakes from previously post mount brakes. They put a much smaller Svelter fork on there with less mounting options. It still has, and it hasn't. I don't understand why they did this, but it has an internal routing for your front brake. It's not through the headset and through the steer tube,
But just down the fork leg.
Yes. And then it still has internal routing for generator hub. And then there was something else they did. I mean, basically, it just looks like it went on a diet. So it seems like they're trying to make it more racy, even though it's still a steel frame.
I don't think they're trying to make it more racy per se. I think they're trying to make it more attractive to the market metrics. Right, new people aren't being drawn to the Fargo because there are 2-inch drop bar options out there.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
And so I think they're trying to shave a little bit here and there and aesthetically modernize it a little bit.
Did you see the color on that new Fargo though?
No, I haven't.
It's like a beautiful bronze copper color.
Okay.
It's pretty.
It's pretty.
And
You sound like you want a new Fargo.
No, I love my Fargo. We've talked about this.
They're doing tie again this year, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Speaking of tie, I got my 4th ride on the Chumba.
Okay. I didn't know it was being ridden.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Last week I'm trying to remember. So I rode a couple of days back to back on it, just kind of tweaking my position, making sure it was set up the way I wanted it to, just doing my normal loops and stuff and trying it out. And then I took it on a ramble, though it was too wet to really hit trail and stuff. Had a good ride on it. And then, not yesterday, which was Tuesday, but the previous Tuesday before we left to go out of town, North Shore was open and it was hero dirt.
Okay. All right.
And I took that bike out there, still recovering from the sickness, still battling that stupid lingering cough, that tickle, and heart rate was still a little elevated, but that bike feels amazing.
It feels like Thai.
So that's the thing that was interesting to me is I was worried that 2017 model, because it does not have the bracing for the disc brake on the rear. After 2017, they put in the rear triangle, they put the cross member to brace for the disc brake, just so you don't get deformation in the rear triangle.
Okay.
I was worried that it was going to be a little noodly, but that bike, even more so than what I would consider my heavier and stiffer Karate Monkey, when you put your pedal down, that thing, it's instant acceleration. It's impressive. And the crispness of that electronic shifting, God, it's amazing. And those Aspen ST tires, I'm in love with those tires. 2.4s, I think my rim size is internal 32. Maybe it's 30. 30 to 32, I can't remember. But man, I just love the setup on that bike. And I somehow stumbled into a beautiful position. I try to pull my numbers off of my other bikes, but like my Karate Monkey's probably the closest to it. But then I'm still running different bars on my Karate Monkey. And then I'm running a different seat. And I'm running 180s on my Karate Monkey, which I'm really rethinking. Because this bike has 175s on it. And it was just a different position. But my position is, I'm going to take my position from there and maybe move it into some of my other bikes, make some tweaks accordingly. But I said all of that to bring us back to, speaking of Thai bikes, have you seen what Chumba is charging for a frame-only Thai bike at this point?
I mean, it was ridiculous a couple years ago, so I can only imagine what it is now.
So I got curious.
Sure.
I was like, God, I'm in love with this bike. And I was like, I know they don't make a Stella anymore. They now make the Sendero, and they also make a newer bike called a Slacker. And it's exactly what you would think. It's a hardtail, super slack. I think it's set up for a 140 front fork. Titanium frame only, $4,495. Just the frame.
And is that custom, or is that just off the shelf sizing there?
That's a good question. Well, that's the baseline price. Like if you want a different decal.
No, I get that.
Yeah. I mean, it's customizable. I think that may be just off the shelf.
No, that's right. I don't know how their structure works these days.
Yeah.
I haven't been keeping up with them.
I was almost insulted. Like, who? I guess, I mean, there's plenty of people out there that have that kind of money, but, I mean, if you start with $4,500 for your frame, I mean, it's hard not to build a $10,000 bike. I mean, it's crazy.
I mean,
you're not going to put trash parts on there.
I mean, that's their market. That's their market. And more power to them. Nothing wrong with that.
And then on the flip side, you have State Bicycle. And you can buy a full Thai bike for, what did we say, $1,750?
No, it's $2,300.
$2,300
for the full bike. I think $17 for the frame or something
Still,
like that.
Less than half the price.
Yeah, I understand.
And I know the quality is different. I know, made in America, all this stuff. But I was blown away. I don't know why it caught me so off guard, but I was shook.
Okay.
It immediately took it out of my even remote peripheral.
It's like, yeah, we're not even. Yeah, that's
not even. I mean,
that's not even under consideration in any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
Something I want to bring up before I forget, because a mutual friend of ours, this guy that races, he's fast on flats. Justin
Anonymous.
No, his name's Justin.
Okay.
He's officially a weight weaning.
I knew the day would come. I think if you go back and listen to maybe our first interview with him, I said it's going to be funny to see you evolve and start criticizing your equipment more.
So yeah, he's as of Texas Chainring Massacre weekend, he is officially a weight weenie, but still on flats.
Based on what? Was it something that was said, or was it an observation, or
no?
Has he made an equipment change?
No,
or?
He made a confession to me. He's like, I'm a weight weenie now.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, we knew it was coming.
Yeah, it's inevitable. At some point, you're going to have to figure out how to fuel more efficiently or more streamlined, and you're going to have to start dropping some weight off your bike and not riding clunky stuff. So, it's the only way to get faster.
Or an e-bike, that'll get you faster.
Well, that's true, but they have so much limitations. Plus, picking that thing up and putting it on a bike rack is the reason that I went to the gym last night.
That is the downside of the heavy duty e-bike. There's no doubt about that. That's why I've been when I'm needing an e-bike, I've been grabbing the wife's bike whenever it's feasible.
The Tributary?
No, I have the Tributary. She has the Confluence.
I can't keep those separated.
I understand.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would like to see how the evolution of the e-bike does go from here. I am so confused what the bicycle market is going to become. Now, side note, I did visit one bike shop while I was in Jacksonville.
I heard you found a new favorite bike shop.
I don't know if it's my new favorite bike shop, but
that's what it was said on the internet.
Did it?
Yeah.
I don't remember. Okay.
You were wearing a hat, and you were like, I might found my new favorite bike shop, local bike shop, or whatever.
Well, I don't think I said it was favorite bike shop, but it's a good shop.
Oh, okay.
It was a good shop. And
no sealant and tubes?
No, they looked at me like I was on crack when I told them the Georgia story.
Remember how I looked at you when you started telling me that?
I do, but that was like, all right. So this is my new experiment going forward. I need to check on other bike shops and see what. This shop. It was a smaller shop, but it was like a satellite location for the main. I haven't been to the main shop yet. But they were right there in the neighborhood where I was staying, and it was a couple of kids that were working there that day.
Paint us a picture. Like, how many bikes? What was their?
Man!
What was the vibe there? Like, high end, low end?
I'll be perfectly honest with you. I talked with the guys a bunch. I didn't have a whole lot of time to browse the shop. So, I tried to look around as I was walking towards the back to introduce myself. And
what brands did they carry? How about that?
They had some Treks there, but they weren't a
Trek store.
They weren't a Trek store, but they were a Trek dealer. I want to say I thought I saw a Cannondale or two there as well. The floor was filled with neighborhood bikes, for lack of a better term. I think that's an appropriate term that paints the picture. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would imagine a bunch of like beach cruiser type bikes and
in that area, and the area I was staying is a golf cart community, and a lot of the kids are jetting around on e-bikes on the pathways and stuff like that.
I think that's Florida in general. Florida's built around golf carts.
Different parts of it are, not the whole. But anyway,
Florida's a retirement state.
And this isn't a retirement community, but
Florida is a retirement state.
We're getting into the weeds here. Yeah. I didn't notice a bunch of e-bikes on their floor.
That's what was going to be my next question.
I didn't look that closely, but it didn't jump out at me. This is nothing but e-bikes. And the kids that were working there, they were all about real deal cycling and into gravel and mountain biking. And they would have fit in well. Yeah, they would have fit in well.
So I want to put one more observational task on you since you're going to all these shops, because it's come to my attention that, or I've started to think that you can tell a lot by a shop based on what tires are on the wall. Now, granted, there was a time where a lot of places couldn't get the tires that they wanted.
Right.
But you can make a pretty good summation about the type and the skill of riders in the area.
I'm following your logic there.
So if there's, just based on the breadth of the tires, if there's tons of gravel tires and there's very few mountain bike tires, then you're like, oh, there's probably a gravel community. But if there's tons of road tires, and then also the level of tires.
Well, but again, here's where the differentiator is of this satellite shop.
Yeah, talk to me.
I think they were very focused on that local neighborhood.
Yeah.
Very, very. So a better picture would be for me to go to their main store and see what that one's all about. But the skill and knowledge level of the people that were working there were. They were very familiar with adventure riding and mixed surface stuff. They were big personally on the mixed surface stuff.
Very cool.
I was telling them about my going to California route, starting at Hanna Park. He's like, oh, you can get to Hanna Park right from here, and you just do this and you do that. And it's like,
that's cool.
Yeah, all right. You guys are talking my language.
I love it when you get a little insider information just by happenstance.
Yep. And I mean, they were, hey, have you done Guana River? Oh yeah, you do know it.
That's cool.
So it was a good chat.
That's very cool.
It was a good chat, and that was some. Actually, I need to do my Guana River video. That's what I need to do.
Did you try to make Grambling fly with them?
Go Gramble. It's go Gramble. The adverb is Gramble. I don't know what the fuck. Too old for this shit.
I tried to make it fly all weekend, and
it's Go Gramble. It's gogramble.com. But anyway, we had other emails we need to get caught up.
Oh yeah. Stand by. Let's get back to our mailbag
because I feel bad for neglecting these for so long.
This wasn't that long ago. This was January 20th. So it says, with Texas Chainring Massacre coming this weekend, I know my timing isn't ideal, but I need the powerful brains of Team ShiftLess to help me out. Well, Rich is not a standing member, so I don't know what you mean by that. As you may or may not know, I have some experience on gravel, and I've done a small handful of longish rides, but I've pretty much always drawn the hardcore, in quotes, line at gravel, meaning I haven't tried crits, cyclocross, or mountain biking. And I just want to stop right there and say, go do it.
Well, let's see. Yeah. I can't remember what the rest of this letter says.
Okay, with that said, my much younger, much stronger, and much cooler cousin, who lives in Colorado, in parentheses, talked me into signing up for the Leadville 100 mountain bike lotto, and as fate would have it, I got in. Worse yet, he didn't. Won't. Considering I've known many people who tried countless years unsuccessfully to ride this one, I feel a duty and an obligation to give it my very best. To me, that means finishing under 9 hours and grabbing that big belt buckle. I think I can get my fitness to a level where that's possible, but then there's the questions of 1, altitude, 2, mountain bike skills, and 3, equipment. I'm going to stop and address just a couple of things here real quick. If you've never done Leadville before, and you're not just like a top performer in your area, I think it's a lofty goal to try to go and nab a 9-hour buckle.
This is a strong rider.
That's fair. I was going to say partnered with the fact that you've not done much mountain biking.
Understood.
That being said, I have not done Leadville, but it doesn't seem like there's a lot of mountain biking, quote unquote, in that course. Seems like there's a lot of gravel and road and elevation, altitude is probably the main hindering factor for flatlanders like us Texas guys. So altitude is definitely number one, as he listed. Mountain bike skills is probably, always a good thing to have.
Well,
handling skills are...
You got to know how to go downhill there.
Yeah.
You're not going to make 9 hours unless you're going downhill fast.
Yeah. And uphill fast.
Understood.
Generally, you just have to go fast.
Understood.
Yeah, and conservation of effort.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I'm completely bass backwards here. If you're a strong roadie / gravel rider that has somehow adapted to the altitude, but your mountain bike skills are completely lacking, you could still go uphill fairly fast just based on aerobic capacity.
Sure.
But you're just gonna wad it up multiple times trying to go downhill. You can still go up the hill
Or get inside your head. Yeah. I mean, I've seen it in numerous events where people that have far more fitness than me get locked up because they come across a rock garden or something quasi-technical, and I just fly by them.
Right.
You know?
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. Is there more there?
There is. Last year, I spent a pretty penny picking up what I feel is a pretty cool gravel bike, and I'm not super eager to drop more than $5,000 on a mountain bike for one event. So don't buy it for just one event. In your infinite wisdom, what should I do? Buy a used bike? To which he says, I know literally nothing about the market. Stay tuned. Modify my gravel bike? I'd say no. Add a loft fork? Possibly. Buy a set of 650Bs to run a wider tire? I can't put myself in that headspace, honestly. And then he says, I don't know. Rent, borrow on the day? I would say that's an absolute no. And then he asks, how much skill training do I need and how do I get it? Any thoughts or suggestions are welcome. All the best, and I can't wait to see you guys Saturday, Sunday. Tanner. And then he gives his gravel bike specs. He has a 2023 Specialized Crux frame, and then he goes on to tell us the color. I'm sure it's beautiful. Gloss, metallic, deep lake, green pearl.
It's probably just a copy and paste.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you're right. I envisioned him typing all this shit out. Oh, okay. Tire clearance, 700C, 47 millimeters. So I'd say definitely you want more tire than that.
More tire than that.
But I don't know if I can get behind the 650B thing. It says he can run a 2.1 with 650Bs.
I'm not against the 650B thing from personal experience.
Well, I mean, it also depends on how tall of a guy he is. I think this may be unpopular opinion, but 29er was the first time I sat on a bike and I didn't feel like I was on top of the bike. I felt like I was in the bike. You know, coming off of 26ers for so long, I always felt, as a 6'3" individual, I always felt like, not that I was, but I felt like I looked like the bear on the tricycle at the circus.
Understood.
When I finally got on a 29er, I was like, oh, this makes sense.
I could be mistaken, but I think he's sub 6 foot.
Okay. Then maybe it's a possibility. Like, you know, when I make these comments where I can't get behind the 650B, it's from a personal standpoint. Like, if someone was 5'8", I'd say 650B all day long. You know, it makes more sense in the geometry and everything else. Proportionate sizing. But that being said, overall, I'd say I think you need a different bike for Leadville.
For Leadville itself, but I think I would wholeheartedly endorse if he has access to some 650B wheels and not having to drop a whole lot of coin, which you can get 650B wheels for next to nothing on the used market.
Because they're borderline obsolete.
No, and that's my recommendation would be to start with his Diverge with 650B 2.1s and start riding all the rugged shit around here he can.
And don't buy lightweight wheels. Buy heavy wheels, buy heavy tires, and push them around until they disappear.
And find out what doesn't work for you between now and May, June, something early June. And that will tell you, I need these features on the right bike for August.
Yeah, and I think also, you know, you're thinking about it wrong if you think you're buying this bike just for one event, because you're going to need a decent bike in order to get the skills that you're looking for that are going to help you achieve
Right.
your goal of 9 hours. And that being said, you buy the right bike or close to the right bike, you're going to ride it to get those skills, and then once you're finished with Leadville, you're going to have another weapon in your quiver that you're going to ride more than you thought.
No doubt.
so-
I think the reality, Tanner, is if you don't have any mountain bike skills, ultimately you're going to want to go to a mountain bike of some sort.
Yeah.
Most likely. That said, you may be one of those natural talent guys that you throw some 2.1s on your diverge and you do your first 3 laps at North Shore and you go, okay, I can do this. If you're one of those people, figure out how to do it on a drop bar bike.
Yeah.
Can go fast at Leadville. But most of the people that are doing that have years of skill.
And incredible fitness.
And incredible
And
fitness.
get paid to ride their bike.
Now, that said, I'm going to say it. If budget is a factor, there are still hardtail mountain bikes out there that will be perfectly fine at Leadville that are going to be well under a $5,000 budget and give you a good build.
Yeah, and I would even... He did admit that he doesn't know much about the market and everything, but I would say that there are so many deals to be had on Facebook Marketplace right now or on consignment at shops that you could buy a really good mountain bike and sell off some of the parts, change out some of the parts, and adapt it to what you're looking for. But I think the problem is he doesn't really know what he's looking
No,
for.
not yet. And that's why I'm saying, that's why my recommendation, Tanner, go ahead and get some 650B wheels and a cassette that lines up with your Diverge, some decent 2.1 tires, and start throwing that around for the next couple months. Take it to whatever mountain bike trails are convenient to you and start riding mountain bike trails on a drop bar and find out what works and doesn't work for you along those lines and start sending us more emails with more specific questions. Start riding with people that are doing the same thing. And I mean, to be honest with you, a fantastic place to try all this out is to take it out to Bar H Bar H.
I was gonna say bar.
4R. Take it out to 4R. Ride the roads there. Do Windmill Hill. Go on the ranch. Ride their mountain bike trail. Ride that RV road that we use and all that stuff. I mean, you will get a damn good workout. You'll work on some of your climbing technique, and then the next piece to it is to adjust for altitude. When it gets hot, ride in the heat of the day.
Yeah.
And do that every single day. Florida Flatlanders, for whatever reason, do really, really well at Leadville. And the reason is because they're riding in the heat and humidity all summer long.
We've had this discussion about Houston guys too.
Yep.
Same thing. My main bullet points would be, building on what you said, is yes, get some 650B wheels and tires. But like I said, I wouldn't get anything cheat-y. I would get something that's durable, and I would actually try to get something that's not heavy, not steel, and not like, crap tires. But I would get something that's not on the light side, something that's durable and heavy-ish. And I would ride to the trail, ride the trail, and then ride back and stack miles as regular as you can.
As much as you can. But I
And
don't
the 4R
know what...
thing.
I don't know what his location situation
neither.
is, so I can't speak to that.
Feel
but,
like McKinney, but I don't know.
But if you need routes, I know a guy that can put routes together for you.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why, but I don't know this guy, but I think for some reason he's McKinney area. But
I bet I can find out really quick.
So he gives a whole breakdown of his bike. Cockpit is all carbon Ritchie WCS and super logic, and he says I'm pushing egg beater 3 pedals. That would be my biggest recommendation is get away from egg beaters.
You're so 10 years ago. They hold up as well as anything these days.
Get rid of your egg beater pedals. I think we answered all his questions. Oh, that's the other thing. For gravel, I run a 1x46 tooth front and a 1044 cassette. I also have a 40 tooth. I assume I'd run in real mountains. At Big Sugar, I was happy on the 46 tooth. Drop bar shifters. So yeah, I mean, you're definitely going to want a cassette that's going to allow you to climb at altitude with less effort and keep your heart rate down.
Denton.
Oh, he's a Denton guy?
Oh, we got you covered.
Yeah. Yeah. I know my way around Denton a little bit.
So he could even start at the Denton Mountain Bike Trail just to cut his teeth.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a great place for a drop bar mountain bike.
And,
Okay.
you know what he needs to do? He needs to do the Rudolph's Revenge route on a regular basis.
Yep. That would be a fantastic training ground. Do that. Do 2 laps at Aldebois. Yeah. And then maybe even peel over to Denton Mountain Bike Trail. That'd be great training.
I've got that route laid out
Yep.
actually already. The other one is our hobo loop that goes all the way around the lake, so you can do Johnson Branch and IDB.
That's good stuff.
Oh, Tanner, we're going to do a Spinistry weekend just for you, buddy.
We should.
A shiftless weekend just for you.
So the next email, I don't know this guy, Joe Rosario, and the subject is shiftless cookbook, and he just says yes! Exclamation point. More so for the snacks you guys consume during the podcast. I think he's the only one in favor of us eating on air. I've heard so much person to person like, hey, quit fucking eating on the air.
No, nobody said that to me.
Oh, I've heard it
I'm sure
multiple
you.
times.
I'm sure you have. I'm sure you have.
My friends are a lot less discerning.
I have heard many people though that are definitely fascinated by
The food aspect?
Yeah. Yes. I like the idea of a shiftless cookbook myself.
Okay.
But I mean, I'm not going to go through all the episodes and figure out all the recipes we need.
No. That was a short and sweet email. This one was much older because he signs off with Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. I told you.
I didn't realize how old it was. There's one more from a gentleman, Jeffrey Glossip, which is an interesting last name. I've never heard that last name. Hi, guys. We always get thorns at Frisco's Northwest Community Park. My son's 26er is not tubeless, so I cut the inner circumference of a tube to make a liner out of it and fit a new tube in there. Then I added some sealant into the tube and inflated. If I'm thinking about this right, he said the inner circumference. So he's just making a rim liner?
I guess. I'm not sure.
That's what it sounds like.
That's what it sounds. That's what it sounds like.
Then I added some sealant into the tube and inflated. He's still got a flat from a little bitty thorn. My theory is that all the powder inside the tube messes with the sealant, prevents it from sticking. Thus, it doesn't really work. My 2 cents, Jeff. I really don't have any experience in this realm, so I can't speak to it, but why not just do a tubeless conversion on it? I get that he says it's not tubeless, but we used to ghetto tubeless wheels forever ago, and it wasn't crazy difficult.
Understood. I think. Well, all he was saying was he heard us talking about what the guys in Macon were doing and thought he'd give it a try, and it didn't. In his situation, it didn't work. But there are so many variables involved.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you this, Jeff. I can tell you if you're industrious enough to cut up a tube, you can literally just make a slice on the exterior of that tube and flay it open over the edges of the rim, install your tire, put sealant in, and then trim the overlapping tube that hangs out of the rim, and that's a ghetto tubeless conversion right there. And it can be done in probably an hour if you're handy. And that'll serve your son a lot better than sealant and tubes, just based on what you've shared with us. So
Quite possibly.
Yeah.
Quite possibly.
in lieu of purchasing new equipment or new wheels or new bike or anything like that, it would be worth an experiment, I would say. And then the other thing is there's no thorns in the trail. Tell your kid to stay on the trail.
Yeah, so I mean, sometimes you got to get from point A to point B.
And the other thing a lot of people don't understand is if you get a thorn in your tire, don't pull it out. Leave it in there, because it's actually acting like a plug, and the more you ride it, the more it's either going to push in or grind down. I mean, I've ridden tires hundreds of miles.
When you're tubeless.
I mean, if you have sealant in there.
No, I'm saying when you're
Yeah.
tubeless, yes. But if
Yeah.
you have a tube, no, you want to pull that thorn out.
Even if it has sealant in the tube?
Well, I can't. I mean,
I think the main problem is the sealant. Once the tube gets, I'm trying to think this through. Once the tube gets punctured with a thorn, I don't think there's enough pressure in that area between the tube and the tire to push the sealant into the hole and then hold it to seal it.
it's not going to seal the tire, but it wouldn't need to seal the. Anyway, all right.
Yeah.
We're definitely going. I'm not a big believer in the sealant in a tube approach myself. I'm not seeing that that's my long-term solution, but if it
I don't
works
think
for
that's
others,
a long-term solution for anybody.
if evidently if you're in Macon, Georgia, it's the only.
Yeah, I mean, I think that probably stemmed from good old boy mentality of putting slime in tubes on tractor equipment and lawnmowers and shit.
Possibly, I don't know, but
Yeah.
you know what? Next time I'm there, I'm going to dig deeper. No doubt about it. And I am gonna keep interviewing with other shops I come across along the way. Like I want to find a go-to shop in Shreveport now. I need to find a go-to shop in Shreveport.
I don't even know what shops are in Shreveport now, but I have quite a few friends that are heavily connected in the cycling in Shreveport that I can turn you on to.
Understood.
Yeah, that know
Understood.
all the trails and the routes and stuff there, and then also, I even know quite a few trail stewards there. I don't know if they're still trail stewards, but I don't know what the trail system looks like there now. Like, is Monkey Trail still a thing? Is Bodcoss Trail still a thing? Is Stoner Trail still a thing? Is Lakeshore Trail still a thing?
I'm just worried about the gravel.
Yeah.
I'm just worried about the gravel.
Yeah.
Found some really good gravel routes around there.
Whereabouts? Not in Shreveport. Like Mooring Sport, Minden.
Vivian. Prairie Dell. Is it Prairie Dell or something like that?
Vivian's quite a bit from Shreveport.
20 minutes.
We used to have I say lake house, and you're thinking something palatial, but it was a piece of shit stilt house on Monterey Lake that's up Vivian Oil City Way. And I literally, as a kid, used to ride gravel out there on a BMX bike.
Yeah.
So
Cotton something. What is it? Cotton Valley. Valley.
Mm-hmm.
And up into Arkansas from all of that.
Yeah.
Then over towards Jefferson where we had that ride. And all the stuff between Jefferson and Vivian looks absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good stuff out there.
But it all seems, from what I can tell, it's all north.
Yeah.
It's going south. I don't think there's much gravel.
Mm-mm.
It's all paved south of Shreveport.
Yeah. That's what I was getting at. I mean, you're going to have to get out, Minden and, those places, Mansfield. Yeah, well, Mansfield's probably not even good now. But what else? What else is going on? I'm trying to think.
What is going on? I don't know. What is there anything new in the bike world?
Man, there's all kinds of stuff.
I haven't been keeping up, to be honest with you. I suck at my job.
Yeah, well, I had my computer and I had a bunch of tabs pulled up. but it got too moist out here. This table was dry.
It was.
There's been no precipitation fall, and the table is wet.
It's soaked.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So where are we at time-wise into this one?
I don't know. What's the next event for Spinistry?
Hour 10. Most like the next official event will most likely be Red River Riot. I hope to nail that down this week.
But you already have the date locked, yeah?
No, I had to do this trip to my folks to get some idea what my schedule for the rest of the year may or may not be.
How does that look?
Looks pretty flexible.
How's your old man?
Old man is doing amazingly well.
Yeah.
He's still an 80-year-old man with a broken neck, but
Yeah.
he's getting along a lot better than anybody would have expected. And
Did you guys get the bars installed?
No.
He's still resistant?
It's that's an ongoing process.
Yeah.
So, but he has finally acquiesced to my mother, and now they're going through the phase of we're going to have every contractor in 3 counties come by to give us a quote.
Sounds fun.
But hey, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
He did have a little bit of a setback in his gym rat self and his no pain, no gain mentality. Evidently, when he fell, he most likely tore his rotator cuff as well, but that was undiagnosed. They didn't know it, sort of thing. And so he's been doing his physical therapy and pushing beyond what he was supposed to do, no pain, no gain. And evidently it started to heal, and he tore everything that had healed.
Oh,
So we might have to go in for another procedure on that.
that sucks.
But, hey, again, he's still a lot better off than anybody would have expected. And he was most disappointed because I took him to the doctor's appointment about the shoulder. He didn't know what it was. And because he's ready to start driving now, and everybody else is like, we don't want you driving.
Yeah.
Anyway, so all that said, it looks like my schedule is more flexible than I thought it was going to be for this year. So we're going to start putting some stuff on the books. Red River Riot will either be April 12th or April 19th. I need to get with the folks at 4R and finalize that this week.
You need to let me know because I want to try to make it.
All right. What are you committed to?
I don't know. I'm looking at my schedule.
I'm leaning towards the 12th, which is because 19th is our traditional Easter weekend. I would like to try to do it on a non-Easter weekend this year.
The weekend of the 12th is Passover, though.
Okay.
Will Foster be able to make it?
What?
I'm kidding. It's a running joke with him and I. Sorry. When is Easter? Oh, Easter's the weekend of the 20th.
Yeah, 420.
Yeah, 420. I don't think I have any. I don't have anything scheduled at the time.
All right, put Red River Riot on your calendar for the 12th, and I will reach out to them.
You heard it here first.
I will reach out to 4R this afternoon and try to nail down the 12th weekend.
I do have something that I can't get off my brain that I do want to share.
I'm all ears.
You know, our friend, Breg. Have you heard his story yet?
No, I have no idea what you're referring to.
Well, I'm going to tell you, and then I'm going to reach out to him and make sure we can share it. And if not, can we cut it out?
I can make that happen.
Okay. So I got a call from him, I guess, a little over 2 weeks ago, because he was supposed to be on this trip with us. He basically orchestrated the whole trip. He made the reservations, he sent out the invites, he coordinated everything. And he called me about a week out from the trip, maybe a little bit more than, it was about a week and a half out from the trip. Just, we were going over, I was cooking for everybody, and just going over attendance and cabin assignments and what the schedule was going to be like, and talking about bikes and all the fun stuff. And he said, hey, I noticed that my peripheral vision was fading in my right eye, so I went to the eye doctor, and they said, yeah, it looks like, and I don't know which nerve it was, but the retinal or optic nerve or something was becoming disconnected. And Greg was like, well, that makes sense, because I really slammed hard a couple of weeks ago, and it was on that side of my head. And, so they said, well, they scheduled him to come in, I think it was the Thursday leading up to the weekend before we went on the following weekend. And they said it's a simple procedure. They can do it through LASIK, and, it's basically outpatient, and the recovery was supposed to be pretty quick. I didn't hear anything from him, and then Shannon calls me on Saturday, and we played phone tag. Then on Sunday, Shannon calls me, which is odd because Shannon never calls me on the weekend. We talk Monday through Friday, pretty much intermittently, but kind of without fail. So I answered the phone, and Shannon goes, hey, I just wanted to tell you what's going on with Greg. It turns out he has melanoma in his eye.
Oh, my God.
And so he went in the following Tuesday, a week ago from yesterday, and they removed his eyeball, his right eye. Huge. I mean, I'm emotional just talking about it. But they have sent his eyeball off for testing to make sure they got the containment of everything. It turns out, I'm not sure on all the technical aspects of it, but he had a tumor that was pushing against the nerve, and it's my understanding that it was in the eye itself. And so taking the eye was hopefully getting everything all in one fell swoop. His recovery's going well. He's in incredible spirits. Like, I would not even be close to as jovial as him and his family are. And obviously it's the survival aspect. You got to lean into it and deal with it. But he's gonna, end up with a prosthetic, and, I can't help but thinking about it every time I ride my bike, because he is 5 times the rider that I ever was or ever will be. And I'm just, cycling is a huge part of his existence, and I know that it's going to be impacted by this. So my heart goes out to the guy. I love him tremendously. And I told him, I said, we're living in the future. You're going to have a prosthetic eyeball that does zoom and x-ray before a couple of years go by. So hopefully it'll be an upgrade. But I know that it's going to impact his, depth perception is the major thing. And we all know, going back to the processing speed, you need bifocal vision in order to process stuff quickly and be able to...
Depth perception.
The other thing I thought about on Tuesday when I was riding North Shore and thinking about him and what he was going to be acclimating to is I closed my right eye at one point, and I just couldn't help but think, you can't even see your right hand. And so the one thing that stuck out in my mind was, how many times is he going to hit his right hand on a tree? I know it's a little thing to think about, but it was one of the things that I couldn't help but think about.
I think, I could be wrong. That's one of those, you identify, like from here to the corner of your house, you look that far ahead to make that determination. You're not figuring that out
true.
Right when you're on top of it.
That's
but
fair.
It's still going to be an adjustment, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
No ifs, ands, or buts about. Man, I have never heard of that before.
When Shannon was telling me about it, he said it is super rare. And then I was talking to other people, and they're like, oh, I had a buddy that happened to, or we had another buddy that we thought that was what the problem was, and it turns out it wasn't. And then I'm like, okay, maybe it's not that rare, but I've never heard of it before.
That's the first time I've ever heard of that one.
But all that to say, my heart and all our hearts go out to you, Breg. And I wish I could give him a big hug, but it's going to be a long road for recovery for him, but he's strong as shit. And when we were in Arkansas, I saw on Strava he rode like 15 and a half miles. So, not much is going to hold him down.
No.
And I have to tell you, one of the funniest things is, his wife was keeping us updated throughout the process, when he was there getting scrubbed in for surgery and when they took him back and recovery, when he was in recovery and the prognosis and how the surgery went and everything. And she was sending pictures and she had, excuse me, she had a t-shirt on before surgery that said, "It's all fun and games until someone loses an eye." It just tells you the frame of mind that they're in. And then she posted a picture afterwards of him in a wheelchair with a huge patch over his eye. It's not just an eye patch at that point. It's compression and dressing and everything else. And he's wearing a t-shirt and it says, "I earned my pirate's license."
Nice.
So it's refreshing that they're in very high spirits. He's mentally good. He's physically fit. He's not going to let it hold him down. And I fully expect him to still whip my ass on a bike.
Oh,
so,
no doubt. There's no doubt he will.
I just can't stop thinking about it. It's been taxing my brain, if you will. So.
All right. Well, definitely keep me in the loop of whether I need to pull that segment out.
Yeah. I sent him a text and asked if I could share a story.
Understood. Understood. Well, so going back to the weekend itself, and I meant to ask this earlier. Mm-hmm. When you first started talking about the weekend, I just assumed it was pig camp. Is that a thing still, or
it is?
Okay.
This was not pig camp.
Oh, well, I figured that out once you started talking about it.
This was a convergence of the Houston and Dallas crews, and it was, like I said, an e-bike trip. So we had 10 total in attendance, and I volunteered to cook dinner every night, which after riding all day, it's the only thing that cuts into my enjoyment is everybody's already showered and 3 beers deep by the time dinner's ready, and then I'm like, all I want to do is drink a beer and take a shower. But Friday night we had burgers, which was pretty easy. Burgers and salt-crusted potatoes. We were supposed to do smash burgers, but my friend Shannon forgot the hose to connect the propane tank to the Blackstone. So we had the Blackstone and the propane tank. There was just a lack of connectivity. So we pivoted, and we used the grill there and made old-school grilled burgers. Over lump charcoal. They came out really good. And then I think the highlight for me, as far as ease and reception, like everybody was head over heels. I did some prep before I left the house. I made potato salad dressing, if you will. I call it gooch, but it's everything that's going in potato salad. And then I made coleslaw dressing, and I made homemade bourbon barbecue sauce, and I made honey roasted jalapenos. So on Friday, when we got up to cook breakfast and get ready and go ride Mount Nebo, and I also made pork rub. I took 2 pork butts on the smaller side and rubbed them and put them on a bed of thick sliced onion, parchment, aluminum foil, and put them in the oven at 300 degrees. And as rinky-dink as these cabins are at Highway 27 Fishing Village, the oven is literally like the starter oven that everybody's had in their first apartment. Think of the cheesiest white plastic oven with 4 burners that have aluminum foil underneath them,
and everything dense just by leaning on it.
But it did have a cook timer. so you could program the oven to go off after a certain amount of time.
Okay.
So I set it on 300 degrees, and the pork butt is cooked and resting in the oven. So, and then all I did was cook potatoes and make potato salad and slice cabbage and throw together slaw, potato salad, coleslaw, and then the honey roasted jalapenos on there. It was damn fine for something that was really easy. And the cool thing I did a little experiment. About a month or so back, I had some regular customers that were at one of our dinners, and we were chatting after dinner, and they told me that they were going to cold smoke some cheese either the next day or whenever. And I was like, ooh, would you smoke some salt for me? And they're like, okay. And so I gave them, my favorite salt. I gave them about a quart of salt, and they spread it on a pan and smoked it for me. And I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do with it at the time, but what I did was use that for my rub. Mm-hmm. So, my standard pork rub starts with about 30%, 30%, 30% salt, brown sugar, chili powder. That's a pretty basic Texas pork rub. And then you put whatever aromatics or other things in there you want, if you want cinnamon or nutmeg or cayenne or black pepper or, whatever else. Makes up about 10%, Not going to impact much more than the salt and the sugar and the chili powder. But I used smoked salt, knowing that this pork was not going to see any smoke.
Sure.
Just to impart a little flavor, and it worked.
Did it work?
Very well.
Nice.
Yeah, I was really
I'm going to
happy.
have to play with that. So
Yeah.
how do you smoke salt?
So it's a cold smoker setup. I mean, and by cold smoking, I mean you're smoking without cooking. So generally you want it, so there's a fine line between smoking, running your smoking apparatus too low to where you're getting like an acrid smoke where you're not getting a true burn. So the true way to do it is to do an isolated firebox and then vent the smoke through something so it has time to cool before it enters into the vessel that's holding all your stuff to get smoked. Or you can just run a smoke chips or something like that in a contained environment. But you want to run it under 150, 140 typically,
Spread out on like a baking sheet or something like that?
Yeah, you want as much surface area as possible for the salt. And then...
any paper under it or anything, or just on the sheet?
I don't know. I mean, I guess it depends on how moist your environment is. I would probably put some parchment down myself, but I've done it once or twice with varying results, but the stuff they did for me was freaking awesome. Cool. Awesome. I'll let you taste it before you leave if you want.
All right.
But I was very pleased with that. I was almost a little nervous that it was going to taste really artificial, like almost like a liquid smoke or some shit like that.
Yeah.
Came out really good. I was very happy with it. I mean, it doesn't taste like a smoked pork butt, but it definitely has
a smoke flavor.
Yeah, and it's natural, So pretty cool. Pretty cool. It was one of those little things that stemmed so many other ideas. So pretty happy about it.
Well, speaking of roast pork, I did come across a Cuban sandwich in the wild while I was scouting.
Yes, tell me.
I mean, it's exactly what I'm in Florida. I'm scouting in the Okefenokee Swamp in the Osceola National Forest, and I hop back on I-10 to head back towards Jacksonville, and there's a sign on there that says Cuban sandwich next day. So it's like, hell yes.
It's such a weird combination that in the pieces and parts doesn't really seem that great, and then the assemblage of everything is what makes it.
It's the sum of the parts.
Yes,
it is the sum of the parts. Yeah. Now, I am one of those that is particular.
Of course you are.
Of course I am.
It wouldn't be a Kevin Lee story.
I was introduced to the Cuban sandwich when I moved to Tampa, and there's a Tampa Cuban sandwich, and there's an everywhere else Cuban sandwich. And the Tampa Cuban sandwich has the salami. And don't get me wrong, I appreciate the non-Tampa Cubans. I mean, the bread's the most important component. Roast pork is pretty close to the bread, but you got those two make it happen.
And margarine. Isn't it the bread slathered with margarine?
Butter.
As well? Is it butter?
I
like that a lot better.
In Tampa, it was butter anyway. No, it was very. Oh, see, yeah, Tampa Cuban food. It's the real dairy is very important.
Okay,
extremely important.
But it's bread slathered with butter, and then mustard, pickle, pork,
ham,
Swiss
cheese.
Oh yeah, Swiss cheese. I forgot about Swiss cheese.
And then
panini press.
And yes.
Yeah, or brick press or whatever.
Yeah. It pressed.
Yeah.
Very, very important that it is pressed.
Yeah.
And I mean, like Cuban sandwiches were around before paninis were. So.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, people adapted the George Foreman grill for that purpose. Yeah.
So, the bread is the key component to actually make it. That's why you can't go to just a sandwich shop and have a Cuban. If it's not Cuban bread, it doesn't. It's an interesting sandwich, but it's...
Yeah, the closest thing we get here in Texas is if you go to a true Mexican restaurant, a true Mexican joint, and you get what they call a torta. That's the closest bread that I can think of.
It's close, but the actual Cuban joints east of here, they have the bread brought in from Columbia Bakery in Tampa.
Oh, yeah.
And that's...
Yeah.
That is key. It's the combination of the humidity and the sea air and
the pH of the water.
Evidently, probably, or the shit in the water or whatever it is. Yeah.
All the fish poo.
Exactly.
Did you have any Cuban coffee while you were there?
No, I did not.
Are you a fan of the Cuban coffee?
I am a fan of the cafe con leche.
Yeah.
Huge fan of the cafe con leche.
Yeah.
But that's also one of those, you got to do that real deal.
Yeah.
You can't, it's got to be the real espresso machine. It's got to be the real cream.
Yeah.
It's got, and it's got to be the real cane sugar and everything like that. So.
Yeah. That makes everything better. You use real ingredients. Who would have thought?
Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah. That's crazy. So was that the culinary highlight for your trip? A proper Cuban?
Pretty much, almost.
Is there anybody here? Is there a Cuban restaurant around DFW?
Yeah. Well, I told you, Jan and I went hunting for. There's a couple over towards. Where is it? It's over Carrollton Way. There's two on this. They're across 121 from each other. One's on the south side, one's on the north side, and they're both pretty good. The south side one's better.
I don't think I've ever had a Cuban sandwich in the DFW area.
We'll go there next week and we'll record while we're eating a Cuban sandwich. How about that?
What is next week? Yeah. Well, I think I'm good.
Probably due for an oil change in the Subaru by then, so that'll work out well.
Next week is when everything starts getting crazy for me. The last week of February is going to be a lot of fun. I'm making sausage. Our annual
your sausage fest,
is on the 22nd, and then I leave for Terlingua on the 23rd. I am super stoked about going to Terlingua and cooking and being with industry people and just being in a beautiful place and getting to do some fun food. Getting to cook for people is awesome. Getting paid to cook for people is awesome-er.
Sure.
Being a Texan, which I consider myself a Texan at this point. I've lived here for almost 30 years. But being a Texan and getting to cook for Canadians is going to be interesting too. I'm toying with an idea. I want to make like a Texas take on poutine, just to be an asshole. Because we have 8 meals. It's lunch and dinner, 4 days. So I think that would be fun, even if it's just a side dish.
Okay.
Do like a pulled pork poutine. Okay. Something with some Texas flavor. do steak cut fries instead of. I think it'd be fun.
Go for it, man. Take pictures.
Oh,
No doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
Anything on the else on the to-do list for today, or is it about time to wrap it up?
I gotta go. I've got a Thanksgiving dinner this weekend on Saturday, fully booked. And I'm
Thanksgiving dinner.
Did I say Thanksgiving? I meant Valentine's.
Oh.
Same thing, right?
Pretty close.
Same thing. But so I got to go shop for that. Make sure I have all my stuff, and then start doing a little bit of prep. I'm dehydrating some stuff and doing some smoking and some short fermentations. So all the stuff starts multiple days out in order to ensure that I have all the quality components that I want for what is an entirely brand new menu. So I'm stoked. Pretty stoked. So
I'm stoked for you.
Yeah.
And for all the Valentines in your life.
Speaking of which, shameless plug, March 8th, we still have openings for our seating. And then I have not announced we're going to have a dinner on March 22nd. That should go live very soon on eatatfam.com.
Eatatfam.com.
Yeah. And then, depending on what this weather does, I'm going to ride my bike. Hopefully ride tomorrow. I doubt I will not be riding today. Just because I have too much stuff to do. And this weather's...
Just man up. Come on now.
I mean, I could ride a trainer, but